Hello everybody, this is Uncle E back with Social Media Book Club. Readers are leaders. Now if you ask any successful person out there, they'll all agree on this one thing, that if you want to be successful, you should read. And that's exactly what we're doing with the Social Media Book Club. This week we're going through the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. We're actually on law number 11. And you know what they say, if you put it in the book, no one will ever find it. Well, as Reading Rainbow says, take a look, it's in the book. So we're going through the 48 Laws of Power. Now, if you should take anything away from today's reading, I just wanted you to leave your thoughts in the comments below so we can continue to fuel this passion to read to succeed. 48 Laws of Power, law number 11, let us begin. Learn to keep people dependent on you. Judgment. To maintain your independence, you must always be needed and wanted. The more you are relied on, the more freedom you have. Make people depend on you for their happiness and prosperity, and you have nothing to fear. Never teach them enough so that they can do without you. Keys to power. The ultimate power is the power to get people to do as you wish. When you can do this without having to force people to or hurt them, when they willingly grant what you desire, then your power is untouchable. The best way to achieve this position is to create a relationship of dependence. The master requires your services. He is weak or unable to function without you. You have enmeshed yourself in his work so deeply that doing away with you will bring him great difficulty, or at least would mean valuable time lost in training another to replace you. Once such relationship is established, you have the upper hand, the leverage to make the master do as you wish. It is the classic case of the man behind the throne, the servant, or the king who actually controls the king. Bismarck did not have to bully either Frederick or William into doing his bidding. He simply made it clear that unless he got what he wanted, he would walk away, leaving the king to twist in the wind. Both kings soon danced to Bismarck's tune. Do not be one of the many who mistakenly believe that the ultimate form of power is independence. Power involves a relationship between people. You will always need others as allies, pawns, or even as weak masters who serve as your front. The completely independent man who would live in a cabin in the woods. He would have the freedom to come and go as he pleased, but he will have no power. The best you can hope for is that others will grow so dependent on you that you enjoy a kind of reverse independence. Their need for you frees you. Louis XI, the great spider king of France, had a weakness for astrology. He kept a court astrologer whom he admired until one day the man predicted that a lady of the court would die within 8 days. When the prophecy came true, Louis was terrified, thinking that either the man had murdered the woman to prove his accuracy, or that he was so versed in his signs that his powers threatened Louis himself. In either case, he had to be killed. One evening, Louis summoned the astrologer to his room, high in the castle. Before the man arrived, the king told his servants that when he gave the signal, they were to pick the astrologer up, carry him to the window, and hurl him to the ground hundreds of feet below. The astrologer soon arrived, but before giving the signal, Louis decided to ask him one last question. You claim to understand astrology and to know the fate of others, so tell me what your fate will be and how long you have to live. I shall die just 3 days before your majesty, the astrologer replied. The king's signal was never given. The man's life was spared. The spider king not only protected his astrologer for as long as he was alive, he lavished him with gifts and had him tended by the finest court doctors. The astrologer survived Louis by several years, disproving his power of prophecy, but proving his mastery of power. This is the model. Make others dependent on you. To get rid of you might spell disaster, even death, and your master dares not tempt fate by finding out. There are many ways to obtain such a position. Foremost among them is to possess a talent and creative skill that simply cannot be replaced. During the Renaissance, the major obstacle to a painter's success was finding the right patron. Michelangelo did this better than anyone else. His patron was Pope Julius II. But he and the Pope quarreled over the building of the Pope's marble tomb, and Michelangelo left Rome in disgust. To the amazement of those in the Pope's circle, not only did the Pope not fire him, he sought him out, and in his own haughty way begged the artist to stay. Michelangelo, he knew, could find another patron, but he could never find another Michelangelo. You do not have to have the talent of a Michelangelo, you do have to have the skill that sets you apart from the crowd. You should create a situation in which you can always latch on to another master or patron, but your master cannot easily find another servant with your particular talent. And if in reality you are not actually indispensable, you must find a way to make it look as if you are. Having the appearance of specialized knowledge and skill gives you leeway in your ability to deceive those above you into thinking they cannot do without you. Real dependence on your master's part, however, leaves him more vulnerable to you than the faked variety, and it is always within your power to make your skill indispensable. This is what is meant by the intertwining of fates, like creeping ivy. You have wrapped yourself around the source of power so that it would cause great trauma to cut you away. And you do not necessarily have to entwine yourself around the master. Another person will do, as long as he or she too is indispensable in the chain. One day, Harry Cohn, president of Columbia Pictures, was visited in his office by a gloomy group of executives. It was 1951, when the witch hunt against communists in Hollywood, carried on by the U.S. Congress's House Un-American Activities Committee, was at its height. The executives had bad news. One of their employees, the screenwriter John Howard Lawson, had been singled out as a communist. They had to get rid of him right away or suffer the wrath of the committee. Harry Cohn was no bleeding heart liberal. In fact, he had always been a diehard Republican. His favorite politician was Benito Mussolini, whom he had once visited and whose framed photo hung in his wall. If there was someone he hated, Cohn would call him a communist bastard. But to the executive's amazement, Cohn told him he would not fire Lawson. He did not keep the screenwriter on because he was a good writer. There were many good writers in Hollywood. He kept him because of a chain of dependence. Lawson was Humphrey Bogart's writer, and Bogart was Columbia's star. If Cohn messed with Lawson, he would ruin an immediately profitable relationship. That was worth more than the terrible publicity brought to him by his defiance of the committee. Henry Kissinger managed to survive the many bloodlettings that went on in the Nixon White House, not because he was the best diplomat Nixon could find. There were other fine negotiators, and not because the two men got along so well. They did not. Nor did they share their beliefs in politics. Kissinger survived because he entrenched himself in so many areas of the political structure that to do away with him would lead to chaos. Michelangelo's power was intensive, depending on one skill, his ability as an artist. Kissinger's was extensive. He got himself involved in so many aspects and departments of the administration that his involvement became a card in his hand. It also made him many allies. If you can arrange such a position for yourself, getting rid of you becomes dangerous. All sorts of interdependencies will unravel. Still, the intensive form of power provides more freedom than the extensive, because those who have it depend on no particular master or particular position of power for their security. To make others dependent on you, one route to take is the secret intelligence tactic. By knowing other people's secrets, by holding information that they wouldn't want to broadcast, you seal your fate with theirs. You are untouchable. Ministers of secret police have held this position throughout the ages. They can make or break a king, or, as in the case of J. Edgar Hoover, a president. But the role is so full of insecurities and paranoia that the power it provides almost cancels itself out. You cannot rest at ease, and what good is power if it brings you no peace? One last warning. Do not imagine that your master's dependence on you will make him love you. In fact, he may resent and fear you. But as Machiavelli said, it is better to be feared than loved. Fear you can control, love, never. Depending on an emotion as subtle and changeable as love or friendship will only make you insecure. Better to have others depend on you out of fear of the consequences of losing you than out of the love for your company. Oh my goodness. All right, guys. I know that's a little long. This was the law number 11 from the 48 Laws of Power. Learn to keep people dependent on you. And remember, guys, you got the power, so use it. This is Uncle E from Social Media Book Club. See you again tomorrow.